Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk Trackmania. We are back once again. Welcome, I'm your host, TM Scotsman, joined once again by the beautiful Turbo to either my left or my right. I still haven't learned. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well today. We have yet another week of talking about this glorious game that we've all been playing for such a long time now. Get a few new and old topics we're kind of going to bring your way today, namely the likes of Trackmania Grand League, of course, as it's finished up its group stage for the Trackmania Grand League Fall 2020 season. Also some updates on things like some developer updates from, I believe Hillis put out a tweet longer recently, giving information about the state of the game, how he's viewed the state of the game, and also some things of which are hopefully going to be implemented or improved upon within the next few months to year. And also some other events we're going to be talking about, long overdue, the likes of Trackmania Formula League. And of course, as always, if you guys have any sort of points or parts of Trackmania you wish for us to address, just hit us up and we will be happy to answer as much as we can. Just a reminder for everyone, of course, this podcast is brought to you by esac.gg. Check it out if you are interested in hosting any future events. Also, if you're interested in participating in any Trackmania events at a higher level, or of course and different environments. We've got speed tournaments and tech tournaments currently on the go at the moment. So hopefully looking forward to seeing some other things coming up here. But regardless of that, first of all, I'll ask, how's our dear Turbo doing?
Yeah, my back is hurting a bit because I played basketball on Sunday and I have like some sort of issue with that. Hello, webcam? Okay. Okay. What has happened?
Everything's broken.
Yeah, but I'm doing very good. Besides that, just had to rest today a bit because I had a very stressy week behind me. But yeah, I'm doing good. How about you? How about you, Scotty?
I'm very well. I mean, yeah, just realised it was on Escape from Tarkov, which is my bad, but we are now fixed and we are now
escaped
good to
from
go.
it.
Yeah, we escaped from it, exactly. We're now back onto Trackmania. But yeah, it's my week's went pretty fine. I spent a weekend away up in a beautiful place called Glenetive. I'm pretty sure none of you would be familiar with that, but lovely, just being disconnected from everything, no internet, no phone signal to worry about, just me and the world, getting close to my, my inner spirit. I had a good time, having epiphanies about Trackmania and things like that. I've come back a changed man. Not really, not really. But yeah, I mean, we of course episode 17 now. We're still blasting through the episodes, but I did promise, of course, on Twitter an announcement for everyone watching at home. The announcement is that we are going to be changing up the time of which Let's Talk Trackmania will be starting, as of course typically every week it has been at 9 p.m. European time, 8 p.m. for me. We're going to bring it forward an hour, so it's going to be at 8 p.m. European time and 7 p.m. for me. So hopefully we won't be keeping you up all night talking about Trackmania, or at least if we do, we're going to be providing a good amount more content. But yep, so we're going to be moving to 8 p.m. so none of you people have an excuse to be missing out on any of our talking. So we're already, like eyes on you guys. But I find it's only fitting to start off today's podcast, or this week's podcast rather, in terms of Trackmania Grand League. Of course, it has been what everything has been kind of centering around within the past few weeks, in the past kind of month or two, or even further back than that, for our talks and our podcasts and things like that. I understand, of course, you along with myself were on ground level for Trackmania Grand League Step 6, which was most recently happening. And of course, now the standings have been finalised for Trackmania Grand League Fall 2020. It is decided who's going to be at least representing TMGL in a combine, and also decided who's going to be representing TMGL in the playoffs, of course. But there's been a few surprises there. There's been a few kind of ups and downs. There's a few storylines going into Step 6. But, I mean, give us your impression of it. I mean, you as I said, you were right there on ground level.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just want to mention that it was kind of, everything was aligning with Trackmania Grand Leagues and OGL, of course, so you can really see that the events are coming out now, which is really cool to just take that before that. But yeah, when I was watching, or when I was casting rather, step 6, everything could have actually happened. We had Afi, who went insanely fast. He could have won when Gwen would have lost his points. And at one point, it was Gwen and Afi in first and second in the total ranking. I think that was before map 6. But also, we had a very close battle here between Kappa, Massa, Aurel, and then also Scrappy, who could have taken it, and also Evon. So your team, or
My boy.
the boy you're representing for. And I think actually the fan favorite, because I was really hoping that he will make it. But it was a super exciting step. I think we could have not asked for more, since there were five players who could have made it and 3 players who eventually made it, with Aurel, which I'm really happy about, Kappa, and then also Spam, who made it into the playoffs. And it was super, super hard for me actually to cast it, because there were so many things going on, and then Peck made a mistake, and then here and there and that. It was very, very hard for me to cast. How did you feel about that, about casting it?
I mean, it was definitely a roller coaster. It was quite difficult trying to keep track of, who's going to, like, how many points is this person going to need? How many points is that person going to need? Because, of course, it's updating live, and if this person loses, how many points, how close are they going to be? It was a bit of a nightmare to try and keep track of all the numbers kind of being thrown around. But one thing I did really enjoy about it is we had quite a few kind of storylines going into it in terms of who was struggling. Of course, you had Kappa, who was one of the people, I believe he was 6th going into the step. He had a little bit of a points gap over the 7th and 8th, which was Spam and Massa. However, he had came down with the coronavirus during the weekend. As such, his ability to practice was quite diminished by how he was physically feeling. So, of course, that was a big storyline coming into it. Was he going to be able to put in a performance still so that he would be able to stay in Trackmania Grand League, despite being in a kind of worse place physically than he's been in the last few weeks before? You've also had people who were coming into this. Well, of course, there was the battle between, primarily it was Aurel and Evon, the 2 main contenders, I would say, from the bottom 8. Evon by being the closest overall in points, and Aurel being the one that was taking such massive amounts of points and losing them, so showing at least the greatest potential, versus Spam and Massa, who had been kind of having a lot of ups and downs in their time, but were also both on equal points. So essentially, they would have to outperform the other in order to really give themselves a kind of breathing room, so to speak. So yeah, it was quite a roller coaster. It did definitely keep me engaged. By virtue of checking out. For example, Tween almost had a miracle run into the playoffs there by, I think he went into the last map with something like 50 or 60 points. And if he'd won that and some of the players in the right positions had then fell out, then Tween could have still made it despite starting the step in something like 12th or some ludicrously low position. Also, Yannick's, of course, unfortunately unable to compete due to some sort of undisclosed personal issues, which we'd certainly wish him all the best for that. But I mean, yeah, there was so much going on. I mean, did you kind of struggle to keep track of it as much as I did?
I mean, I usually spectate Peck more than all the other people, but then Peck was asking me, "Hey, did you capture this?" And I didn't capture it because Peck was so far behind. I think he made a mistake on how was this map called again? Wait a minute, I forgot about the name, but we're gonna figure that out in a minute. It was map 4, I think. What was the
Dune map? Or Glacier Hiking, I believe.
Yeah, Glacier Hiking. He hardly made it into the finish, where he flipped it to the finish, and I was not capturing that because it was so exciting. It was just super, super exciting. And I mean, you just named it. There were like so many people who could have made it. Actually, Tween could have made it as well. I was actually not really considering that. But yeah, if Kappa, Spam, and actually Aurel also would have lost their points, it would have been a chance for him if he won, because he got 55 points. That's just incredible. And I think actually that one person was not there actually changed a lot of things, because I think Yannick is able to or capable of making it into the top 8. So there is one less person who loses his points. And I think this also changed some things. But also that Bren kind of only gotten himself 32 points I mean, he was also a little bit unlucky on the side of Aurel, but on the other side of the medal, it is Aurel who eventually made it with a very clutch step, got second with, I think, 60 plus points or something like that. So he did very, very well. And yeah, I'm really excited for the playoffs, which will be already in 1.5 weeks. So not sure who's going to cast it. Hit me up if you need a caster, of course. Because I don't know how it will be declared who's casting the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. I believe last time it was if you had a player who was within the top 8, you were then able to cast the playoffs. So as you've got Pack, hopefully that will mean that we'll be seeing your involvement in the playoffs, of course. Otherwise, I'd imagine that does leave quite a few very important people out, though. Of course, Virtual not going to be part of it through Riolu not making it, Geek not going to be part of it through Tween not making it, myself, of course, not going to be part of it through Evon not making it, and I've forgotten, is there a few I'm missing? Perhaps was Necro streaming for Kameto, maybe? Or
no,
someone like that?
He was for Gwen. He was for Gwen.
Oh, Gwen. Yeah, Game Word, pardon me. But yeah, I mean, I do think that this will make it interesting in the playoffs, of course, from our streaming side of things as well. But I suppose that's more of an interesting point between us rather than when everyone else will be focusing that much on. But one of the main kind of things I wanted that was on my mind in regards to Trackmania Grand League's final standings was some of the surprises, not only in the order, but also on people who just didn't show up this season or just weren't really within contention. I mean, if we focus on the bottom 8, first of all, I think your main names that are going to stick out to you are always going to be Bren, Riolu, and Tween. I mean, if I can just speak individually about them, we've seen Bren be within inches of making it to a grand final in Trackmania Grand League before. You know, he's very well experienced with the format now. I believe this is his 3rd season in the format, as he was one of the original participants, if I remember correctly. He's shown his skill on this, and when I'm seeing some Twitter posts posted by Bren, of course, in French, but it doesn't necessarily seem to be a question that he's not having. He's not putting the effort in for whatever reason. It seems to be that he's having some struggles adjusting to some of the things for the new games, say the ice parts, reactor boosts, and things like that. And let's be honest, I mean, the majority of these identities are either ice or reactor boost based. I mean, that is just the nature of what's happening at the moment. I mean, part of me does kind of take that with a pinch of salt because Bren's been one of the most versatile players that we've really had in Trackmania. He, of course, came from a RPG background primarily, if I do remember correctly, back in 2015, 14 and so on. Then you look to the other players. I mean, Tween showed what he really is capable of in the last step. I mean, he was going into the last step, I think, with the same amount of points, going into the last map of the last step, with the same amount of points or more than he actually gained through all of the 5 steps previously. Or banked, shall we say, through the 5 steps previously. And from someone who we know is historically a very, very strong performer and a very reliable performer, I must admit it was very surprising to see Tween essentially being irrelevant through most of the steps. We didn't really see that many. I don't think we saw any map wins outside of step 6.
We have, actually.
I mean,
I think he was beating either Peck on this, I think, Cyclone also.
Oh, yeah, the very close finish, I recall.
Yeah, and then also like this close finish on step 5. So he definitely had his moments. And what I really like about that is that, I mean, he had, I'm looking here right now, he gained 55 points and he ended up with 99. So he more than doubled his points. And I think Tween was also one of the most unlucky players, but also one of the more unstable players. So lacking consistency maybe on some of those new tracks, also learning all those, you named it, ice and reactor boost things, which is really, really decisive, because if you mess up an ice part, you're down 2 to 3 seconds, if not even more. So it can be really, really hard to do those correctly. And I really like that he really put in the effort, even though it's almost impossible that he could have made it. And I think it's a good attitude to have, that he has gotten himself 55 points. Does the seeding actually matter here in that way? Is it So, for example, Massa now, who got 9th and almost into the playoffs, will he have an advantage over Matt, who got in 16th? Because I just didn't understand. Will they get bonus points, or how does this work?
Yeah, so basically, the way it works is that you will get bonus points based upon your position in Trackmania Grand League and also your combine position. So if we isolate bottom 8 of Trackmania Grand League, so 9th is first out of the bottom 8, so to speak. So the first of the bottom 8 will get, say, 16 points, whatever it is. The first of the combine will also get 16 points. And then it will just count down. Second in combine will have the same amount as 10th and Trackmania Grand League, and so on and so forth. And you'll get a kind of points bonus depending on where you actually finished in the lower half of things. But two other players I really wanted to mention there. I know you've had a little bit more to say about one of them, primarily being Riolu. Been, I would say, quite a big disappointment for a lot of players. I believe what had been said about, I believe a statistic someone had pointed out earlier, is that Riolu had managed, on average, got more points per step than he managed to get in all 6 steps put together this season. I think he came away with something like 30 to 35 points from the entire season, whereas, of course, from last season, being the runner-up in the overall group stage, I mean, that's quite a hero to zero kind of move there. However, I understand people have been saying that he's had some issues going on and that have really kind of stood in his way of being able to put as much effort in. But I mean, I always find myself kind of looking at that from kind of two sides of things, where I've been in a position where I've been in a tournament where you need to put a lot of effort in, say in my case, Trackmania Pro League, and really not feel like you're really not enjoying it. You're not feeling comfortable with it. Say he's not enjoying whatever else is going on, and I can understand that. Certainly you might want to play Trackmania, but you might not want to put time in Trackmania Grand League. I've not seen as to how much he's been streaming, if it's just that he's been playing other things or he's just not been playing the game in general. Again, I suppose you would know a little bit better about that. But another kind of runner-up to speak of, and another, I would say, major disappointment this season has been Scrappy. Scrappy, again, is not been close to what I think was expected of him coming into this season. I mean, last season he was the runner-up overall. I mean, he was second placed in Trackmania Grand League Season 1, yet he wasn't. I mean, of course, he lost points in Step 6 and took himself out of contention, but he was still quite a noticeable bit behind. It wasn't in the Aurel kind of situation where he was having massive amounts of points getting knocked off all the time, but it's like, I mean, so it was, to me, it was a little bit of a letdown, but I've understood from some people saying that Scrappy's not had the same kind of motivation for Trackmania Grand League. He's perhaps feeling a bit kind of disenfranchised with what's going on internally. Again, that's me kind of just perhaps putting words in people's mouths, but that's how the grapevines came down to me. But I mean, am I kind of seeing the same thing as what you think's happening with these two players? Because, I mean, like I said, I expected much better, and I think a lot of other people expected much better coming into this season from those two.
Okay, let's first go into Scrappy. I think those are actually very good points. But in the past, so when I went to sleep, I was always watching Trackmania Grand League casts, and I've often seen in the chat, let's say Scrappy said, fuck this, I'm quoting right now, fuck this, I'm done with the point system. So, I mean, we all know, I don't want to at him or something like that, but we know that Scrappy can be a little bit, let's say, angry about things.
Yeah, hot-headed,
Yeah, but the thing is, here, he was actually super close of making it into the playoffs, because on step 5, he lost 33 points. I think he got himself 4 points, so it was close, relatively close to the top 8. And in this step, he lost, I think, 40 points on the last track and has gotten himself 5 points here. So he was very, very close. And I think his mistakes were not even in the identity. It was before that. He was just making unnecessary mistakes and maybe risks. I'm not sure about that. Maybe it's just the mental game that he can't cope the pressure that well. But yeah, it's definitely one of the people, as well as Tween, that I would definitely see in the playoffs, because you pointed out beforehand, he was second. He was the runner-up, just behind Papu, if I recall correctly. Papu was the winner. No, wait. of
From
season 1. It's
season
yeah.
1, Carl Jr. I
Carl
believe, won
Jr.
it.
Wait, what? Yeah, Papu was the winner of the
group stage.
group stage. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Now we got that right. Was mixing that around, and he definitely has the pace. And I don't know what would have happened if Scrappy would have made it into the playoff, because he is a very risky and fast driver, as well as Massa. So I think that those players are out is a huge upset, and is good for people that are saving a little bit more. And yeah, unfortunate to see that, but hey, that's how the system works. And yeah, to Riolo, I can say, I mean, I know more about that, but of course, I'm not disclosing it here. But he didn't really have the time to practice that much, and he took streaming. So I'm just gonna quote him here: if he's practicing on stream, he does not really get the sort of feeling, because you have chat interaction, and he of course is seeing that a little bit as a work, because he was just moving out. You need, of course, money to live from, so he sees streaming as a sort of income, which is understandable at this point. And if he is, he's rather practicing off stream rather than on stream. And he said to me that he will definitely practice for the combine a lot, that he will try hard there. And I think he will make it as well as Scrappy, because I cannot imagine a Trackmania Grand League without them. Also Tween. So it will be a very, very hard competition. And also, you mentioned that Riolo was the runner-up in the season. But I mean, just look at the players, look at them, and also the new things that were coming to the game. So maybe this didn't treat Riolu and maybe even Tween or other players who can really adapt to the new styles that fast, that good. So maybe that's my thesis to it. But I think they will still make it. Just need to put some more practice into that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, another kind of part of the results of Trackmania Grand League, which I thought was really worth talking about, and it kind of reminded me a little when Eirik brought up about him being, the betting king and all that crap, but was about the total, the overall kind of Trackmania Grand League top 8 order, which I believe saw Gwen first. I think it was Papu second, Carl Jr. third. I know the top 5 essentially. I know Pac and Afi are up there as well, and then the rest is the kind of people who were fighting for the to essentially avoid being part of the combine. But one thing that I've really noticed, and I think it has largely affected this season's overall outcome, is that you had the likes. Thank you very much, Eirik. So Gwen, Carl Jr., Papu, Pac, and Afi being the top 5 in that order. But one thing I did very much notice is there was a major drop-off, specifically from Carl Jr. and Papu, from their performances, shall we say, step 1, 2, and 3, up until step 4, 5, and 6. I mean, we associate people with Carl Jr., or associate things like Carl Jr. as being the person who for so long never lost his points. He was so consistent. He was winning maps left, right, and centre. And not to say that in 4, 5, and 6 he's not been in contention, but you can clearly see it's a different level than what we were used to at the start of the season. Also, Papu, I mean, not even close to the same kind of points hauls he was taking earlier on, even in the season when he was challenging for, I think it was 100 points a step. It seems as if once they had, reached a certain points threshold, that they really just kind of took their foot off the gas. And as a result, you see the people who really didn't do that, specifically Gwen and Afi, really ascending up the leaderboards quite significantly. Of course, Gwen in first place by a very substantial margin, and Afi, who was almost in contention for being first place by a substantial margin had he not lost all of his points in the last step. But I mean, I look at it when I'm looking at it this way. I mean, how much can you then take from Trackmania Grand League's overall standings from the group then? Because it makes me think about last season when we talk about Riolu being second. Was that really representative of him being the second best player in the group stage? That kind of thing. But it was kind of disappointing to see that, and I think it has kind of adversely affected the leaderboards in that way. I mean, it's great for Gwen, as I believe there is still a prize pool for the group stage overall. But I mean, what happened there? I mean, like I said, it was quite a shake-up from what a lot of people were expecting, and quite a shake-up from what even happened for the first half of the season.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, there's no real incentive for the first place, and the question you were asking, if the player who is on second place is the second best player, I would say that it's the second most consistent player. So that I would put the consistency as the like variant, or however it's called, as being the best. So it changes a bit. So it's not the fastest player, and we know that Rio is not making a lot of mistakes because you just mentioned that. But here, I mean, maybe Carl Jr. just thought to himself, if he had a good step as well as Papu, hey, you know what? I didn't really need too many like good placements. Now I'm safe anyway. And I mean, there's not a real incentive to go for it. Even for the playoffs, you can pick a map if you're in the top 4, but both of them are in the top 4. And then players like Afi and Gwen, maybe they have to prove something because they are the new ones. And maybe they want to show, hey, you know, I'm here to have a momentum boost, and maybe they have a little bit more respect. But on the other hand, they haven't really tried that much. So I don't know. It's a good question, but I think the main reason is really, so my first point is that there is not the 100 euro again for that first position.
Mm-hmm. I mean, as far as I do remember seeing from the rulebook, there is a staggered prize pool for those who do finish in the top 8. You do get more money if you finish first compared to if you finish, 5th or something like that. It wasn't just, like the seeding or sorry, the map choice or something like that was really incentivizing these players to place well. I mean, one thing I'm kind of looking at it a little bit is these guys are just saving themselves for the playoffs. Of course, the group stage isn't that important to them. I mean, you do have players like Carl Jr. who have been in this place at major tournaments like tens, we're talking easily in double digits has Carl Jr. been in these sort of stages where obviously if we're talking like an ODSWC, he's not going to be full try-harding, full focus for like round 1, which I understand to this point. These players maybe don't want to wear themselves out so much just for the group stage. They don't want to run themselves dry on just, the group stage, which I can understand for players who have really been around the block, players like Carl Jr. And Papu's getting there as well with a lot of top level experience. Players like Pac, although Pac was definitely seen to kind of, albeit inconsistent, he was definitely putting in high level performances. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just them playing the long game, so to speak, and the stakes are always going to be higher in the playoffs. I mean, I suppose you could kind of look into it that maybe some of them are doing like major big brain moves, and it's kind of like the way where, what was it again? So if you were 4th placed in the group stage, you would get to pick the first map in playoffs. That's one of the kind of weird quirky things about the rules. So we talked about the playoff stage before, where essentially it's going to be you need to win 2 rounds within one map to be able to secure your spot in the next round. So if you are 4th in the overall Trackmania Grand League, you will be able to pick your map first. So the map that you're most specialized on first, and then you've got essentially the best chance to get the 2 rounds immediately. Which I don't really think anyone's going to have really thought that much into it. So to speak. But I mean, yeah, I can't help but feel that it is a little bit lopsided in the top 8 because of that. I mean, Gwen definitely does deserve the 100-point lead he's got over something like that. Yeah. But I would definitely caution people who are kind of looking at the leaderboard to think the Gwen isn't going to steamroll everyone just because he get 100 points more than them in the group stage. But yeah, I mean, it certainly sets up an interesting stage for the playoffs, though, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you named it. If you're 4th and you can pick the first map, maybe you can pull up some hidden techniques or anything, maybe for the identity. I mean, we have seen that a lot of times, and I think, like, for example, the Buckside identity, you can get very consistent on that and just risk it there in the ending. Wait, the map actually got released, so I'm not even sure if this map is in. But yeah, it's actually an advantage. But on the other hand, it's a disadvantage if you're like, oh, I'm gonna pick that map and I'm not winning on this. So maybe that's also like a bad thing. And for the last map, it could be for the first person. Oh, this is my last call. I'm very comfortable on that. We're gonna end it here, so I have to push it. But either way, the people or the players will be so much under pressure. It will be unbelievable, really, because you have 8 players, only 6 of them are making it through, and everyone could be finalists at some point. So this is really, really insane. This format, it's ridiculous. I mean, I've casted the Game World Cup where they were in the loser bracket. It was the make it or break it, and then Hugo, who didn't practice a lot, was like, oh, okay, that map is good, and won it in 2 maps or in 2 rounds. And he was like, yeah, goodbye, see you next week. So this was like incredible. And I think that this will, of course, break someone's heart. And I'm not actually sure about if a player who could potentially win in, I don't know, 10 rounds, the whole thing, that this will determine the best player. So this is like my kind of issue. But hey, we will see. I think this will change again throughout the next season. But yeah, what do you actually think about it? Is it a rewarding system to pick the best player? I mean, you have so much. You can put two weeks now into those maps, into those 6 maps, if I recall correctly, and then everything can go down to the wire on one round for like 6 or 7 people. The lucky winner, of course, can win. Someone will win, of course.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for playoffs, I definitely think it's going to be interesting, not only for the fact that it's a different format, but also what that kind of represents. I mean, we think what Trackmania Grand League in the group stage rewards most is consistency. It's not specifically rewarding the people who are, lightning fast, 1 or 2 lap pace, or even those that are just that are able to get the fastest 6 lap times, by hunting it or anything like that. It's rewarding most players who are able to finish 6 lappers at a great pace time and time again, as they're more likely to keep their points and as such build up a points total and get into the playoffs, of course. Whereas now this is a completely different beast. This is about all-out pace. It doesn't matter how consistent you are really on 6 lappers now. It's essentially just you need to. It's full risk basically. You aren't going to be seeing anyone going for safe ways through identities anymore. You're going to see people absolutely maximizing these maps, and I don't like that kind of shift in the identity of the tournament, so to speak. Because I mean, you could have someone utterly dominate the group stage, and then they just don't fit well with the playoff stage whatsoever. I mean, here's an example, right? So 2 players who were equal in points going into this stage in the group stage, and one of them would have a significantly better chance on paper by their reputation, so to speak, and that's Spam and Massa, right? So they went into step 6 on equal points. It was, it was A or B who's going to make it, essentially. Spam is renowned for being a consistent player. He's always that kind of person who in, top level tech events was typically getting second places and building up his points from there. Like, I remember he always used to complain about it all the time, how he was always missing out in first places, and that was why he was struggling in these sort of events. But as a representative on the style of which he plays, he is a more consistent player, takes things a little bit safer, and that's how he essentially has reached his success, is by being a very reliable kind of performer, so to speak. Whereas you look at Massa, who's always kind of been like lightning in a bottle. He's always kind of been the kind of player who could be the world's best, but also the world's worst. He is that kind of player. Like, it's like a light switch. I've always said Massa's extremely momentum based. If Massa has his momentum, he has his feeling, he can be an extremely difficult player to stop, even for the absolute best in the world. But if he's been put on the back foot, then a very large amount of people at the not even at the top level can definitely cause him trouble. So yeah, I mean, if you were to put them in the group stage, well, they might have been at the same points roughly in the group stage. Massa, by the change in format, would be more favoured to take home to make it through the rounds. As we look at it this way, in the playoff format, only first places matter.
Yeah.
So if Spam is to get second place every single round, he's not going to make it through. It doesn't, and that is a little bit bizarre to me. I mean, you could be the second best player and you could still lose. You know, that is a little bit bizarre to me. Whereas Massa, I think you could reasonably rely upon being able to risk it enough on, you know, shall we say 1 out of 3 rounds on a map or 2 out of 3 rounds on a map, and be able to be in very strong contention for winning it. So that's why I don't like the kind of shift up, as you're kind of having a group stage which seeks something to bring out the best in its players, and then a playoff stage which seeks something completely different to bring out the best in its players, which I don't necessarily agree with. But one thing I do like about it is that I'm going into this playoffs with not a fucking clue who's going to win it. You know, 8th place could win it, 7th, 6th, 5th, it doesn't matter. You could have players who show up and just by pure luck of the draw, they get the maps they want, they can take it home. It really doesn't matter. You know, you have players who are normally consistent and fast, you know, like Carl Jr., but you might have Gwen who just risks the shit out of whatever maps he's picked, and there you go. Gwen's managed to win. You know, it's kind of cheap excitement in a little way. You know, like it's that's kind of how I feel about it. But I mean, I'll enjoy watching it from the sidelines. You know, it's always the kind of hype you get when you're having the late stage of a major tournament. You know, it's going to be interesting to watch. Have you kind of got any thoughts about how the playoffs is going to work or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, when we talked, or when we continued talking, or when we started talking about the Trackmania Granding and the results, I was talking, or I was saying that Scrappy and Massa were players that I would really see in like top 4, top 6 levels, so they will definitely survive the first couple of steps. But yeah, the meta has changed. So it's a meta change. It's a new format. It's not the consistency game of playing a map 6 rounds and just hope, or just play your best and play the most consistent. It's about risking it all in 1 round or in 2 rounds and then go to the next round. So yeah, of course it will be super exciting, but I think also that it's very cheap excitement, because I mean, everyone could take it, and it's again an argument that maybe you hear for the first time now. It's again more for the spectator and less for the player. So again, a very like considerable, like good price pool here for that amount of playing. But we could also see someone who's not giving a shit, you know, let's say Kappa, not practicing that much because he's not feeling that well, and he's just like, oh, come on, fuck it, I'm just gonna risk. And he could also make it because he has played those maps beforehand, right? So everyone at this part could take it, and I don't really have a clear favorite. It could be Gwen and Carl Jr. going out in the first round. They could also be the final. So we don't know that. Of course, the pressure will be higher and higher as more players will advance. And yeah, I just don't really like the fact that it's not lasting that long, because, as I've said beforehand already, you cannot determine the best player by just 10 rounds or 15 rounds. Of course, the one who copes the pressure the best, but yeah, there are so many more things that you need to consider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I know that's kind of been a point of complaint as to people feeling like the playoffs really aren't getting the kind of justice it deserves, so to speak, which I think has been a kind of running issue in terms of, if we look back at I believe it was played at ESWC, one of the, or Paris Games Week, I think it was, where there was only one match played on stage for the Trackmania Grand League finals, which people felt a little bit let down by. But I mean, I don't want to dwell too much on the playoffs in and of itself, because of course we do have another week and a half before then. I think it's only fair we can go into a lot of detail about the playoffs next week, of course, when we're kind of in the lead up to things. We do kind of have a little more things to talk about today, but of course, I do think it's going to be interesting for the playoffs. I think definitely people will need to read up on the rules beforehand, because otherwise I hope the stream's going up half an hour early and you're going to have people actually telling you how this is going to work, because it's going to be quite a shake-up from not only previous playoffs, but also from the group stage as well. So make sure you, of course, know what you're looking at, because I can imagine it's going to be a little bit confusing. But some of the other topics I wanted to talk about today, another tournament which does kind of carry almost the same namesake as Trackmania Grand League, just with one kind of letter change. There's Trackmania Formula League, TMFL as it's otherwise known, which I've certainly misread a few times. But yeah, Trackmania Formula League was a project kind of announced a few months ago, teased with, I believe, first of all, some screenshots Shumi and someone else were doing, some sort of collaboration, advertising essentially this new tournament that was going to come up. And the reason why I specifically wanted to bring this up as a new tournament is it's not just like, say, a tech tournament comes along and it's got a fancy new format or something like that, or a dirt tournament or a speed tournament comes along, again, with, it's not like it's coming in with new formats or anything like that. I would say this kind of fits into the special category of, very limited run events, things like the 24-hour race, where it has its own unique identity, so to speak, in the sense where with the Trackmania Formula League, it has now its own individual systems for tire wear, trying to emulate the tire life, of course, and real life race cars, as well as fuel, of course, needing to make pit stops, needing to kind of strategize a little bit. Of course, no collisions on the cars, as that's of course not in Trackmania, but it's kind of came out of left field a little bit. It's kind of came out of nowhere, where we didn't really have anything like this before. We've had, of course, the what was it, the Blue or Black Angels made that Formula One series back in Trackmania 2. I believe Frostbill streamed that. I mean, that just goes to show how long ago that was. They were on maps that just essentially ported a track map of say, Melbourne and just kind of put it on Trackmania, which didn't really work because, you had players just cutting across the grass and everything like that. And the only way you could slow down for a pit is it just put a black screen if you're going too fast or something like that, But anyway, it's came in not only with, of course, a Formula One or a Formula League, a kind of circuit racer type idea to it, with the things where you don't want to drift too much because that's going to bring down your tires faster. You want to release a little bit more instead of braking, drifting through turns, so that you don't use as much fuel, for example. And again, pitting at different times so that you will have the best kind of tires and fuel available to you at certain times of the race. This is a very unique event. I feel it doesn't even fit into the same category of the Formula Leagues we've had before in Trackmania. I mean, have you kind of kept up with it? What's your thoughts been of this event so far?
So I was not participating in this event, but I was watching actually a lot of Trilog's videos who went on YouTube and actually are a success. So he's uploading them and they get more than, I think one video had 80,000 views or something in less than 1 week. So it looked very, very fun and also very exciting because it is more than just the driving itself. It is a strategy that you have to form. When do I go into the pit? When will I change my tires? Will I drift? Will I release? What will I do? And I think that there will also be some sort of metas. So for example, now I'm gonna drift, for example, but I have to change my tires 3 times. I'm just saying a number now. But someone is not drifting or drifting less and has only to change his tires twice. So you see the skill versus strategy. What is better in that case? It's a really cool concept. And we have also seen it on Twitter that I think people finished so close, I think half a second in between each other in a total race. So it's a really good concept. And I will definitely try this one out because you cannot really put this one into the former track or in the former formula thingies or into some other tournaments that are going on right now. So it's a really refreshing and good concept that we have right now in Trackmania. And this will really help to, that the game will stay alive, right? What are your thoughts about that? Are you actually playing? Did you do any sort of the seeding or did you just watch the stream? I don't know.
Well, I caught on with it quite late on. In the last day of the seeding, I managed to qualify 6th or something like that. So I did end up in the Premier League. But unfortunately, it's on a time where I'm pretty much always working or I'm always having something to do. So that has been a little bit of a nightmare. I believe it's Sunday afternoons it normally goes on. which has been a bit of a nightmare. I do feel bad since I've essentially took up a Premier League spot and I've not even played yet. But yeah, do you know one thing which I really like about it is you can't really compare it to any other tournaments that are going on at the moment. Like I see players can ask, would you say it's better than Trackmania Grand League amusement wise? I find that a very difficult question to answer, perhaps not even one I can answer, because it's like they're two completely different kind of events. You know, it's like saying, am I finding Full Speed more enjoyable than Trackmania Grand League? Like I'm getting a completely different thing out of it. You know what I mean? I feel it is much more skill focused. Of course, you know, when Trackmania Grand League has its, you know, fucky point systems and identities and all the rest of that, this is just straight a circuit racer. The only little things you need to worry about is, as I said, tires and fuel. Like you might get penalties if you go into the pit too fast or something like that, or if you time it wrong, then you're going to be eliminated because your fuel's ran out or your tires have fucking blown up or something like that. Like that's. I also have recognised that there's been a very large amount of effort put into this, as Riot has been saying. There's been great production value into it. There's been websites set up with lots of stats, divisions, and such. The production value for at least the foreign stream seems to be very nice. And of course, the mods and tracks are new. They're fresh, which I think is something that's very kind of difficult to achieve in a game that's been going competitively for so long. And the thing I like so much about this idea of Trackmania Formula League coming into Trackmania in general is it just gives you another option, you know, for a player who's been sitting, maybe they've got a little bit tired of, you know, mixed style maps, or they get a bit tired of ploughing all the time into Open Grand League. They can go on and play Trackmania Formula League because you don't need to know life for that. Because if I know correctly, the map only gets released on event, so it's kind of like, you know, the TTC style, you learn while you're doing the event kind of thing, which I really like because it caters to people who just don't have that much time. You know, it caters to people who maybe your older players who've moved on a little bit from Trackmania because don't have the time to know life for these kind of major tournaments. You can just jump in if you've got a few hours on your Saturday, you know, 1 or 2 hours, and just jump in and have a good time in Trackmania Formula League, but still have an interesting and engaging format. It's not just another tournament. It's something new. It's something fresh. And I definitely encourage anyone out there, at least give it a shot, at least watch it. And I'd definitely like to see more people get involved in it casting-wise, if some people definitely do get the chance. But yeah, I mean, I think it kind of carves its own little place in Trackmania. Like I said, it's not a tech tournament. I mean, sure, it's focused more on the tech style, but as I said, it's not a tech tournament. It's not a multi-style map, you know, in the kind of ways. It kind of has its own little style to it, which I've really enjoyed the fact that it's here. You know, I've really enjoyed the fact that it's part of Trackmania. But I mean, one thing I don't know though, and one thing I would like to find out a little bit more. We've seen going into Trackmania, the likes of the DDE staff have had a lot of trouble trying to adapt the plugin to the new Trackmania. We've seen updates from external tournament providers, like say Shitfest, another example, having trouble porting it to the new Trackmania. I believe TMM were having trouble porting TTC to the new Trackmania, and so on and so forth. I'm curious as to how they managed to get such a new system working. It seems to be very well without you know while having their own little team. I mean, I kind of theorized on when it was coming out that I thought Nadeo had some quite strong involvement, as especially on the promotion side of things. They were definitely taking quite a big stand on it. But I mean, I'm not even sure. I don't really even think that's the case. But it's definitely fresh. Are you getting the same kind of feeling for it? Is it something that you get excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't play it, but I kind of regret that I haven't participated in the seeding. But my Saturdays are also full, so I think it's on Saturday or Sunday, but my weekend is also full. So I didn't really come into the contact of actually playing it, and I rather give my spot to someone else if I maybe make it into Division 3, 4, or maybe even 2 or something like that. I would rather give the spot to someone else. But yeah, it's creating some new wins, and I was also thinking to myself, what is the difference now in this script compared towards Shitfest compared towards TDC. But I think it's the fact that players are that there are only 15 players on one server. I think that's a huge advantage for them, that they are doing their whole own race alone. Or is it 10 players? I don't know, but there are not a lot of players on one server, and so the script can work out very well.
I believe
So
it's
that
30.
or 30, but I mean on the TDC sometimes it's 220 or 30 or something like that. So it's way more. So yeah, I think it's because of that, and maybe because also they put in the effort. Maybe they are fresh. They want to show, we have a new tournament going on, and so they're a little bit more motivated than, let's say, the TMM stuff, who were all already like on the side of not really being that interested in hosting any more competitions. So that is my kind of idea about it. But yeah, really nice to see that. I can just repeat this over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, it is kind of hard for me to talk a little bit about it now, since it's not necessarily a tournament where there's been like there's massive things at stake in the same way that Trackmania Grand League has. And I must admit, I've not been able to follow the results as much. I believe Wosel and Dexter are two of your kind of strongest performers in Trackmania Formula League so far. Wosel, of course, being a tremendously fast learner and tremendously adaptive player, and Dexter, all of the kind of tech following will know him as one of the players with the kind of highest tech potential we've seen. But I mean, as I feel you're getting the same feel. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot when I do say that I do think it is a great project, and I do think it is definitely something to be excited for. And as Trev Bob kind of chimed in there with, I think it's it's great for casuals. It's the kind of Trackmania Grand League feeling where you can just go on and play it and plop yourself into bronze, silver, gold, whatever the divisions are, and just enjoy. You can just go into Trackmania Formula League. You can have a seeding where you're not taking it too seriously. You're just having a little bit of fun. Maybe take a division hit or something like that, and just go on and enjoy. It's not something that you're going to need to commit hours throughout your week to be able to participate in, which I think is really great. I've always enjoyed more events that I've had, like the map pack being released on the day of the event. You're not having people going in with a massive advantage to it. You're having people just learning it as they go along, so everyone's at the same kind of pace. So it's not at the same pace. Obviously, some people learn faster and some people learn slower, but everyone's at the same kind of level of hours. Everyone's got the same chance to do well. And I think that really does result in very exciting races, and what people are figuring it out as they go along, and that's definitely something that I'm very happy about with Trackmania Formula League, and I can certainly hope that they'll continue in a sort of series. Maybe they'll get some good backing and get some really high tier players in there, because I'd love to see how people like, say, Carl Jr. would adapt to a style like this, or how players like Pac, Orel, like all the sort of players like this, your top level Trackmania Grand League players, how they would react to essentially have it. Because the thing is, because there is the mechanic, of course, you drift more, you wear more tires, you're having to drive circuits in a completely different way than you would normally do. So, I mean, I did play the seeding stage myself, which was you had to drive 6 laps with these kind of tire and fuel wear active. Like, you're almost fighting against your inner instinct to drift. You're like, no, don't press the brake button. Like, release instead of drifting. Like, obviously, your best players are still going to be the best players, but maybe some little changes here and there, maybe a little bit closer or a little bit further away, or some people, which I think I think would make it very interesting with some people playing that. Like, for example, you wouldn't associate Wosel with being a better tech player than Dexter, but he's able to perform to a better level than him in some cases in Trackmania Formula League. So definitely great work to those involved in Trackmania Formula League, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from it. And definitely check it out, guys. Sunday afternoon, I believe it is.
Or Saturday, something like that.
Yeah, Saturday, Sunday. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I wasn't here, of course, the whole last weekend, so I wasn't able to catch up on it. I believe it is still ongoing, so definitely check it out, guys. Sunday, 4 p.m. CST. Okay. Thank you very much, Trev.
I was
appreciate it. Yeah, it's okay. We'll let you all. The seeding stopped on Saturday, I believe. So we'll let you off with it. We'll let them off with it. We're not going to fire Turbo yet. But one other part I wanted to talk about in today's podcast was an update we'd received from the developers of Nadeo in terms of how things are going so far, what's being worked upon, what kind of situation we're at in different things. I've got it here on my other screen, so I'm not paying attention to you guys. But
yeah, I'm doing the same right now.
Yeah, so we're both doing the same. So don't get on our back, guys. But yeah, a kind of dev checkpoint, fun and serious, which was put out on Hillis's Twitter page. I'm actually just going to post it in chat here. It was a twit longer posted here. And one thing that I would immediately say is that as a lot of people had complained about previously, that there was issues with communication between Nadeo and the wider community. What was happening. Say some people had complaints. This wasn't working, or that wasn't working, or this isn't here and that isn't there. It was always people were asking a lot of questions. People asking a lot of questions, and not always were they getting answers. But I'm very happy to see that there's been quite an in-depth response to a lot of the questions people were asking, a lot of the questions I was personally asking about things like daily cups, matchmaking, and things like that. There's, answers have been given, and I'll run you guys through a little bit of this. So the first section of it is just basically saying a few of the things I've had to go through in the making of the game, like what they've done a lot of work on, some of the features that they've got that they're kind of proud of, in a sense of that, and how they're kind of working to expand the game, in the likes of China, and support for custom competitions and things like that. Pardon me. And the kind of stage they're at so far. And some of the points they then go on to address there is what they kind of expect from the future. So daily competitions. Not really mentioned much about the Nations League yet, but daily competitions, they will be done at the release of the track of the day. They'll be in two phases. First, a big time attack to seed yourself in a league, and then a knockout mode. The idea is to have a short format where best players can easily, without practice, prove their ability to quickly learn and succeed on maps. So there we go. We've had a little bit of clarification about daily tournaments that is going to be on track of the day, essentially, and it's going to work upon where, of course, players aren't going to be knowing these maps very well before. Hence, track of the day. They'll be released. There'll be a tournament on it. And they'll be able to prove their ability through daily competitions coinciding with track of the day. Not anything on an ETA on that or anything like that. Also, matchmaking. So this has been a big... I'm just reading it as I see it. This is a big subject and a big priority at the moment. Well, I would like... This is in Hillis's words. Well, I would like to avoid to provide any estimated date for the work we are doing in order to prevent from putting pressure on the team or make some people disappointed if we don't match a schedule. I would nonetheless give an indication that our current target is to release it during the winter season, which will happen during the first 3 months of 2021. It requires a specific UI, and to make the first step of it, it is a new feature and may require iteration after release, which I believe is a little bit of a kind of misword there. Adjustment, I believe, after release is meant by that. And keep in mind that we are making it in a way that users themselves should be able one day to manage their own matchmaking if they wish to have a rank on their preferred style / map pool, etc. So what we get from that is they're going to be building what I would then say from that, essentially a kind of bare bones matchmaking system. It's going to work, I'd imagine, on some sort of, say, track of the day map pool, some sort of campaign map pool, something like that. So they're going to provide the bare bones for a matchmaking system to exist in TM. It'll have ranks, it'll have its fundamentals for Trackmania. It'll work, and it'll be what will be good for the game, of course. However, with that, they're looking to provide the framework for other people to be able to expand on the matchmaking service easier. So, shall we say, they're wanting to provide a framework so people could do a tech matchmaking, a full speed matchmaking, or a specific kind of ranked matchmaking, like an elite level rank matchmaking, or shall we say an entry level matchmaking or something like that. So that's what I get from that. However, I'm extrapolating a little bit of a kind of hidden meaning from it, so to speak. So maybe I'm missing some points from it, or maybe I'm kind of stating things that won't actually be part of it. But I definitely think that addresses a lot of the questions people had about matchmaking. Do you want to take us through some of the other points which were put in fun, so I'm not just going in a massive
Yeah, sure. I mean, matchmaking is a very good point here, and I think that I understood it the same way you did, so that they have the foundation or the program, and that they will have like some official things, like the track of the day, let's say for the prior week or something like that, and then also the campaign maps, and then also some like maybe most awarded maps or anything like that, and then I could maybe use it as well for some sort of league or anything like that. But yeah, the next point here is a team fun competition. So another daily competition, a little special, is being designed and developed at the moment. A little in the spirit of the AO8 Forever, we are working on the daily format to enjoy another cool aspect in Trackmania. In order to make it, we may have to open a new type of map review servers. So those are again Hyla's words or the words of the Trackmania developers. And what I really like is here a like team competition, and then also again a fun competition that we've already had in the Daily Cup thing. Because again, you named it with the Trackmania Formula League. Just to bring up this point again, it is of a more casual experience than all those like competitive experiences we have right now on Trackmania and also on Track of the Day. If you put like 1 to 2 hours into them, you are fine on them. You can also beat a player who is on top 1 spot. So everything can happen there, and I really like that. And also the fact that they try to bring back team competitions and to bound a team again, to be with your friends in TeamSpeak again. Maybe, we play together the dynamic trio with Eric, and we're just gonna have some fun. It's not about the competitiveness, and that's what I really like, that they try to implement something that is not about concepts, they're not releasing something, but the community is, and that's what I really like. Okay, so anything more you want to add to this team fun competition thingy, or?
Yeah, well, just because this seems to be the last part about, what necessarily is going to be added in terms of what to do, so to speak. One thing I feel is fair to comment on with these additions is it's definitely going to be things like, I've been one of the kind of groups of players that complains a lot about, not feeling I have a lot to do in Trackmania. Some people might feel that a fair criticism, some people might not feel it's a fair criticism, That's down to, I suppose, whatever, field of view you have of what's currently happening in the game. But this does signify that new things are coming in. There's going to be fun competitions. There's going to be, matchmaking going to be happening. There's going to be daily tournaments happening. Whether this is going to suit some of these people that are saying they don't feel like they have much to do, it might not. It might. That's a way to look at it. It's what I feel is important for this is that in a year from now, we're going to be able to load up the game. Like, say, if I was talking about Trackmania 2 Stadium, if I was thinking to myself, next year, I don't think that much is going to have changed. Like, they weren't going to make big changes to Trackmania 2 Stadium outside of, what their direction was. So, changes in the tournaments that were already happening, whereas I think if we look at next year for Trackmania, it's now going to look a different place. You're going to have more to do. You're going to be able to go on and fair enough. Like me in a position as a player, who's interested in specific things, it's completely different from me. Obviously, I'm not going to be the kind of player who's going to go on and play campaign every day, But the main thing is there more options now. So you could load up the game in a year from now. You could go on and play the campaign. You could go on and play Track of the Day. You could go on and play a daily competition on Track of the Day. You could go on and play matchmaking. You could go on and, maybe form a team for your team fun competition. Also, they've been working on club tournaments and things like that, as far as I understand, or more framework within clubs to be able to expand on its functionality, so to speak. So basically next year, by this point next year, in podcast fucking number 200 or something like that, we're going to be in a place where we're going to be able to talk about more happening in the game, which I think can only be a good thing. Whether we talk about, as I see player mentioned there, whether we talk about whether the daily cups will suit this style or that style, or whether they'll, focus more on a mixed style. What I think is important about what they're doing at the moment is that they're adding things kind of without taking into account really that it should focus on one style, or or it should be only tailored to multi-style or something like that. I think something like Track of the Day is a nice middle ground, since normally they're quite varied maps. They're maps that you're not going to be seeing. You're not going to be seeing 10 speed maps in a row. You're not going to be seeing 10 tech tracks in a row. So on and so forth. Pardon me, but I think it's important that they're bringing new tools into the game, new pieces of the framework which can be expanded upon. And just in general, like I said, I like the idea of a new daily tournament. I like the new idea of a team fun competition. Like I said, it just gives you more to do when you load up the game. Whether that suits you or not is down to what interests you in Trackmania. I mean, I'm still going to be in the camp at the moment where I feel like I personally do not have a lot to do in Trackmania at the moment. That's going to change when things like CPS come around. Some tournaments that I'm interested in are going to come around. Now that Trackmania Formula League's here, I'm going to feel that that's something more that I can do right now. But yeah, I mean, I like that we're moving in a direction where more's being added, personally. And I think that while it was something people were expecting, I think it's important that even that you do expect it, that you're happy that it's coming. It's not just like we're expecting matchmaking because they should have done it by now. Like it's here it is, in black and white. It's coming. This is what we can expect from it. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely positive news so far, but I guess there was some other points there you were going on to.
Yeah, I mean, also maybe you remember the mode that was coming out 1 year ago, the Chase Me mode. So I hope,
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I enjoyed that one so much, and I hope that this will come back as well. Because this is, of course, again, more casual, and you can see that's competitive all the time. Competitive. Also, always competitions. It's not fun, and you really need that to stay on contact with your friends, to play with them. We've already had an episode about that that Trackmania feels that you're a bit isolated at the moment, so that you're playing on your own. Of course, for me as well, I feel like I don't really have that much to do in Trackmania. I can play Track of the Day, I can play the campaign, which I will do afterwards when we're done with the podcast. But I only do that because I really feel like it. And it's like once or twice a week when I really feel like, today I'm going to boot up the game. I will have some fun, But other than that, there will be the competition, the team competition, which is really nice. We're going to talk about that as well, which is my next thing that I'm going to participate in. But yeah, you said it. I hope that everything will be implemented. It's only a matter of time, and that everything will go how we are expecting it. But we will talk about that in the Let's Talk Trackmania in I think let's say half a year approximately. Okay, so the next point is items. So it's the second to last point, and it's after seeing all the incredible maps made by incredible mappers, we've decided to provide core features to help for it. Of course, not my words again. One is about the work to be able to edit a sub part of blocks in order to prevent the size of items to grow too much. Okay. Also, we will provide a service to help people share items into the game if they wish. The way it is designed is to enable you to simplify add items. The directories. I was like, what the fuck? Suggest by a club to your favorites and see it. Dude, it's so weirdly written here. Update if required directly. Dude, set some points, man. What the hell? Directly into the map editor after. So what I really understand is here that you can change blocks, you can kind of cut them, and you can also change the size of them. And it's a really good feature for the mappers again, because right now we have the feature with Open Planet that people are using. And I think they just want to get more of those things done with the game itself, so that people can create items in the game besides downloading a third-party program that is running with the game. So I think that's kind of the way they want to go with that, and also to create more opportunities of creating blocks. So it's a really good idea. Of course, I'm not the best mapper, but people will be most happy about this point. So Yeah, I think that it will be a good point. The last point here of the casual or about the fun topics here is more exclamation mark. There are many other topics on the work. For example, we will soon be able to provide more feedback for track of the day, including which ones had been nominated for the mappers to have a better view if they are far or close to make it. The work is being done with the arcade to showcase the more popular programs. A system is being put in place to help community events to be promoted directly into advertising panels around the stadium, etc. Okay, well, what I see here is just to have a little bit more transparency again, and also to use the track of the day feedback a little bit more. Because I mean, do you go on the feedback channel or about on the map review server and trying out the tracks there? I did not do that, so it's a good point that you had there, and also people were like, okay, my map is very good now, and all of a sudden it didn't become track of the day. So things change with that, and I really like that as well. The last point, a work is being done, okay, with the arcade to showcase the most popular programs. Well, do they mean that they want to promote third-party or community programs with that, or
I guess it was like the channels thing from Mania Planet.
Okay, yeah, okay, cool. So they want to bring that back, okay. And then the last point here is also, again, a community-based point again. So I think all the points here, the fun points, are based to the community. With that, of course, the items you cannot map together. Maybe that will come as well. That would also be a cool feature if you map together. And yeah, it's just a cool thing to help to promote a tournament, and also to decorate your tournament. Maybe put a weird face on my cup onto the stadium or anything like that. So, any more points you want to add with that, or?
Well, not necessarily, but one thing I want to kind of point out for it is, I think with the topic we had last time about how the community did feel so isolated and did feel so kind of fragmented, so to speak, I think little things like helping making sure that things are easier to find out, like community events being promoted directly on advertising panels, I think is a good idea, as it might help someone who maybe isn't in all of these discords everywhere. They might just see it while they're driving around in a big billboard at the back that, oh yeah, there's a tournament coming up, and that might be worth them playing on, which I think can invite more kind of casual people into the you know, the competitions that are being run and the events that are being run by you know, whoever it is that wishes to use that feature. So I definitely think that, I mean, obviously it's not going to be the silver bullet that fucking deals with all of our problems, but I definitely think it's a nice little step to be made to you know, go towards rekindling the kind of community feeling which Trackmania, some people in Trackmania feel like it's been kind of losing. But I mean, the little things there as well, I think are nice. Of course, track of the day, so you essentially know if you were close to being part of track of the day or not, which I think was important for some people who are maybe a bit demotivated from not really knowing, you know, whether they even had a chance and kind of thing like that. But I mean, not necessarily wanting to go super in depth into the rest of it. They did also do a serious aspect of that, which was also discussing some of the things they wanted to change and they wanted to deal with that were already in the game. I'll give you guys a quick run through that. So the main points were trophies, netcode, the wall hat kind of slowdown, so to speak, and something to do with the authenticator, which I'll go through in just a second. But essentially, trophies, it seems to be that they want to implement the trophies in some ways a little bit better, but also make it a little bit more visible. And in terms of that, you know where you found the trophies. They'll be available on your profile page, so they're better displayed and everything like that. And being able to, you know, say for example, you host your own event, you want to have a significant trophy being awarded for that event, then it will have some sort of way to do that. So hopefully a bit better framework being implemented for the trophies too. It feels like a lot of people are kind of confused in exactly how that works. So hopefully, well, that's been worked on as we hear, which is good to hear. Also, netcode, which I know has been quite a teething issue for players. They say that their priority is that they should resume normal behaviour in the weeks to come, but they're not too sure about it. They said that they compare the recent netcode to the decade and a half of the previous games, that it's not just as simple as copy and pasting Trackmania 2's netcode to Trackmania 3's netcode or new Trackmania's netcode. Basically, they're saying that there's more things that are possible with this netcode, but that also means that, some of the fundamental things we might have been expecting are not working as intended, because essentially, I suppose the way you would look at it, just completely from a layman's point of view, which is mine, is that there's more variables now. There's more variables because there's more possibilities, so it's not going to work as intended. But what essentially the goal of this is that the resource usages, saying, as well as opponents and rounds and just opponents in general, is hopefully going to be much better. So you're going to be able to identify where your opponents are on track in rounds, which was, of course, a major competitive feature in top-level tournaments in the past. And also resource usage, so it's not like it's lagging you out a lot when you're going to be through specific instances with the netcode, it seems to be. However, they're stating that does seem to be very difficult to do, but hopefully they'll be. They're looking, of course, for player feedback for that as well. And also one of the main talking points. So one of the minor talking points, which is kind of like what some people kind of revolve around so much, is the wall bang penalty. Being when you hit a wall in Trackmania 2 previously, you would slow down just by virtue of actually contacting the wall. But to discourage some maps which had wall bangs, which were a faster way to navigate the turn, Nadeo implemented a penalty when you struck the wall, that you would then make contact with the wall, and your speed would be, or your momentum, so to speak, well, no, it would be speed, would be reduced by a certain percentage or whatever it was once you'd made contact with the wall. So you're going to hit the wall and your car's going to feel as if it's bogged down for a little bit following you hitting that wall. So you're not going to have maps where wall bangs are going to be faster anymore. However, that did also have problems where, for example, if you're on an RPG map and you're on a balance beam or something like that, if it's got a kind of square edge to it and your wheels are making contact with the walls, sometimes that can give you the slowdown penalty. If you're landing on, say you're landing on a ramp sideways or something like that, or you're landing on a wall, if you make contact with that wall at a certain way in your back wheels, you may land the jump perfectly smoothly, but because of the way you've landed and what kind of bits you've intersected with, essentially you get a wall bang penalty when you've taken the jump perfectly cleanly, albeit very closely, to be able to trigger the penalty. So they're waiting for the end of Trackmania Grand League to roll out an update, which I think is very, very prudent. And it should make it should impact the ability to make new records in a way that it could be easier without these issues. And this is why they keep the previous ones as they are. So it sounds like essentially they're going to kind of remake the leaderboards a little bit so that it's not just, people are just fucking destroying old leaderboard times just because wall bangs are working again or something like that. But it's definitely addressing a few points that I think people were asking a lot about it. I'm not entirely sure what OAuth is. It doesn't really specify either, and then goes on to kind of thank the community for their involvement and their kind of feedback and so on. But if I can just encapsulate this into a whole, I think this is what a lot of people have been asking for. A lot of people, this is the transparency which people have been looking for. This is the progress reports, the roadmaps almost that people have been looking for. And I think this is a great step. And as long as this continues, I think, I mean, I know, Phoebe's probably going to cringe at this, but when people have been talking a lot about the kind of almost a pursuit for positivity, that was very much interpreted to be something else. Of course, that wasn't what they originally meant. But what people took that to mean is that people were always, too negative about it. They were very critical and things like that. Of course, that's not what was initially meant by, for example, Nadeo asking for more positivity. But that's kind of how people took it.
Yeah.
One of the complaints was like, they never tell us anything, we give all this feedback and nothing's happening, or, all this. I've been there, I've been the kind of person saying that sort of thing. And there's points that were justified. There was points where people were getting angry over nothing. It happened. It's a thing. But I think this does make roads to have a more positive atmosphere within Trackmania, in the sense where people are going to see that complaints are being listened to because they've pulled out saying, we're aware of this and this is what we plan to do about it.
Yeah.
They don't need to say, we're going to have this fixed for fucking June or something like that, or we're going to have this fixed for 2021. It's just that they know about it. This is what they're trying to do about it. This is the progress they've made in doing something about it. Even if it's bad news, right? Say they come up with the netcode. At the moment, we're trying to fix netcode, but we've got no fucking clue. That's okay, as long as we know that they're at zero, so to speak. I think that's very good steps being made to have people feeling better about things going wrong. So they don't see something going wrong and think, fuck, this is never going to be fixed, like, bugs in Trackmania Nations or something like that. Like, or the lap script bugged in Trackmania 2 where the communication was very poor. People didn't feel like it was ever going to be fixed. But yeah, I think this is a great step, and I definitely want to see this continue. I mean, yeah, there's not really much more I can say about that. Other than the fact that I want to see more of this, definitely.
Yeah, and also like the progress of the game, because of course it was coming out. We were talking about that there are issues that they are facing. It's normal for a game, but also the progress over time. They really look to that, and maybe we don't really recognize the Trackmania that we are in right now in 1 or 2 years in time. So that things that are fundamentally at this point were not implemented. So, and I think that's the right or a good step into this direction, that we have all those things. We have this and this and this and this. We are working on that, but we don't give you guys a promise that we have this finished till then, because I think they had that with I think it's the Rated Cup with the spectator bug or anything like that. But people had so many issues there, and they were not doing them. And then when the cup was almost over, we had the spectator bug from, I think, Aurel and Bren, and then they fixed it. I don't know when they did that, but they were aware of it. But now they really have shown it us here, and the community cannot blame them for that. So it's just really good to see, and also to that they split it into like the casual fun side and to the serious side. And then also it's giving me a good feeling. When I first read that, I was like, hey, that's well formulated in terms of positivity. It's a good thing. They are aware of that, and I really like that. It's super cool. It's a good way. But what I don't really like is that Hylas was posting it, because I would have imagined that the Trackmania site or the official Trackmania will post it. The official Trackmania Twitter, and not Hylas on his private account.
Yeah. Completely agree with you there. That was the one kind of drawback I was thinking about it, is I think this more needs to be a representative of Trackmania's direction rather than, because, I mean, let's be honest, we've looked at it within the past few years that everything that kind of goes wrong or everything kind of goes right is all Hylas,
Yeah.
There's plenty of more people that work at Nadeo. I mean, obviously you're seeing them a lot more now, say in the Trackmania Grand League Discords, when they're talking about things. But I mean, yeah, up until Trackmania Grand League, I barely knew anyone else worked. I barely knew to what extent the Nadeo team was. And while it's nice to see them getting involved more, showing that they're working on things, I think especially for things like progress updates and things like that, it really needs to go through the official Trackmania channel. I mean, of course, people like Hylas, Phoebe's been quite involved publicly, Tona being the community manager, or I don't think he engages that much publicly. But say people like Magnetic that, they are feeling in a position where they want to comment on, how people are interpreting things or something like that. Like, they can still do that when it's been posted in Trackmania, like address, someone replied this, and then, there you go, you just type back to whatever they've put. I think it's really important that it comes from Trackmania's kind of main account, as I think that will kind of, that's the central point I want to go to on Twitter when I want to find out news about Trackmania. I don't want to have to go to Hillis's Twitter account. That, you know, this isn't Hillis game. This is Trackmania game. You know, I went to go to Trackmania Twitter account to find Trackmania news, to find Trackmania updates, to find all the rest of this. And I mean, don't get me wrong, we're talking an extremely minute amount of people, but of course, Hillis has been a bit of a divisive personality, especially recently with a lot of the stress of the games going under. And, you know, people are getting blocked, you know, on Twitter. I've seen a few people getting blocked on Twitter. Now, they don't see those updates, you know? They don't see that all of this has came out about Trackmania, you know, things that they've probably been complaining about and is the reason they get blocked in the first place, you know? I think it's a bit of a misstep, and I think that it kind of isolates the attention on things like this down to one person, which I think is a kind of bit of a shot in the foot. You know, like if something does go wrong, Hillis is going to get the blame because Hillis is the one posting about this all the time. You know, whereas if Trackmania is the one posting about this all the time, then the blame just goes towards Trackmania, goes towards Nadeo. You know what I mean? It's not one person getting, you know, with the target on their back, like, oh, this guy fucked up this because, you know, because mindless people are just thinking because he's posted that he's responsible for it, you know? I mean, I don't want to talk too much about that because I think it's just such a minor thing that I think such an easy thing to fix. I hope they do that. Then, you know, I hope we're not going to have the issues with some people being left out because obviously they've been, you know, inflammatory to some extent to be banned and are blocked in the first place. So, I'm not going to, you know, shed a lot of tears for them, but in the sense that, yeah, I do think it's important to make sure that everyone has access to this information and that it comes to the right place. That's all I really wanted to say about that.
Yeah, I think also like blocking people, they are not aware to see those posts, and I think that's a crucial thing because this could lead to a split in the community, and to have like an objective playground or an objective page, it's way more important than that. Of course, they can be banned. People can be banned there as well, but I mean, this should have more of a reason than if they like go personal against Hylas or anything like that. And yeah, you named it. It's like more about Hylas. I mean, Hylas is standing in has the attention right now, or is like in the middle point, and the other people we hardly know of. Of course, we know the social media people. We know Alinoa, we know Tona, and of course our beloved Phoebe. We know them, and then also Softy. But other than that, we hardly know any people, you know. And it's an issue. Of course, it works like that, but it's a bit like, you know, the objective and biased thing again from the Trackmania Grand League. I'm just gonna put that one up again, and it feels a little bit more biased from, or like a little bit more of a like, what's it called, monarchism? I think like that he is like there, or like yeah, you know, and then everyone is below him. But I would put it on the official Trackmania page. Not sure what reasons they have for that. Actually, you can't think of any reasons, or because I think they are posting the updates on that as well, but not the things really concerned about the game, like those.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's personally impossible for me to speculate, but I mean, Phoebe's put there that, by the way, when these dev checkpoint contents get closer to the actual release, you could expect Trackmania tweets and information as per usual. The dev checkpoint is Hillis providing a sneak peek from his personal point. So I suppose maybe he's felt the need to go out of his way to, you know, provide that update to the community, so to speak, a little bit earlier than they'd initially planned, which, you know, is of course at their discretion. And, you know, the fact that the information is coming out is the main thing I'd like to focus on. I mean, while I talk a little bit about how, of course, as it's come out primarily and exclusively for the moment from Hillis's account, the whole blocking thing, I mean, first of all, I'd just like to make very clear that absolutely, I mean, I've seen people saying horrific things about Nadeo. You know, I've heard people saying horrific things about Nadeo. Like, taking their anger at the game and the anger at the situation to personal levels, which really does not belong in the kind of community we are part of. It's not something I would say to anyone else. You know, it's not something I'd expect anyone who watches these podcasts to be, you know, being very being very personal when it comes to these kind of people. I mean, I think it is still fair when you're, like, say, for example, if you're questioning Hillis's decisions and things like that, if you're questioning, even to the point, does this guy really know what he's doing? I know a lot of people have felt like that at some time. I've felt like that at some times, like, does this guy have a fucking clue what he's doing, kind of thing. But I feel like this is the natural response when you're getting such inflammatory comments sometimes. I mean, Phoebe saying there that she's had, personal death threats being written to her by virtue of being part of Nadeo. And I think that is a really disgusting thing. And unfortunately, as is natural, these people are well within their rights to be blocking people who are extremely inflammatory and who are making their... I mean, these people are, of course, reading their Twitter accounts by the day. They don't want to be receiving fucking death threats. You know what I mean? Like, they don't want to be receiving people going into their DMs calling them fucking idiots or something like that. I mean, I think people who are doing something like that really need to get a grip on themselves. I was about to put my feet up on the table and then realised I'm on fucking cam, so I'm not going to do that. But, so I think I don't necessarily look down on people like that for blocking, people. I'm not going to comment on, why this person was blocked. I mean, some people are posting, oh yeah, I only post a meme nigga block. I don't know that for sure, so I'm not going to comment on it. But definitely, I think people really need to have a big serious check when they look into how they address these situations. There's right ways and there's wrong ways. It's nothing to do with fucking positivity and negativity and all that shit. It's just simply being the decent way to treat someone, like I can say I don't think Hillis has a fucking clue what he's doing, but that's not me insulting him personally. That's not me insulting I'm saying I don't think he's very good at his job. I'm not saying he's an asshole. I'm just saying I don't agree with the decisions he's making. I'm not fucking wishing death threats on him. So, I mean, that's a little bit of a tangent from me, but it's just a little bit of a rant, because I do see it from the point of view that people are saying when it comes to this, positivity argument and all that kind of shit. But yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with blocking people, but I mean, when you are the kind of person who's releasing a lot of information about the game, maybe it's best if you are going to be having a lot of people who aren't going to see it just to, post it on Trackmania. Trackmania is just a faceless fucking Twitter page. There you go, deflecting hopefully some of this shit away from you. I don't know, maybe it wants to kind of take it so other people don't get it. I don't know. So I'm not going to go too deeply into that, as I don't think it's a topic that really demands much of our time. But on the main kind of thing, to keep it on the positive note, which I think this podcast has really been, which is a nice change. I mean, it's something. I was speaking to Phoebe a little bit about this previously. I feel like we have too many negatively mooded podcasts, but it feels like there's just too much bad news. There's too much things to talk about, which people are worried about or people are concerned about. But when we get some good news, it's good. I'm happy to be able to talk about hope. I'm happy to be able to talk about feeling good about something, looking forward to something, and that's kind of why we titled the episode like that. But I mean, I don't really have much left in the tank for today's topics, and hello there, Deluxe, coming in just at the end. But I mean, if you kind of any other points you wanted to raise for today's episode?
Yeah, I mean, you had a huge monologue there in the ending, but that's just Scotty, and I think that's fine because I can just agree with that, and I really like that it was becoming more positive and positive. And I mean, why are we doing this podcast? Of course, because we love Trackmania, we love the community, and we know we are comfortable here in this situation. That's why we stick around with this game, and of course, we enjoy it. And I mean, I only have some things to talk about here, but we can also take them for next week, because there are plenty of cups coming up. Also, cups that I'm really looking forward to. The Time Chasers Trackmania Challenger Series. I'm really looking forward to that, because I'm going to play it, actually. Yeah, I'm going to play a competition. The caster is playing a competition. Can you believe it, Scotty? Can you believe it?
Oh, here we go. Not your own competition.
No, not my own competition, but this will come in December. But I think you have said everything concerning that. Maybe the chat has any more questions, but I really like the view, or the view that we have to the future. The future looks very bright concerning the Trackmania that they want to implement, and I think it will be good. So yeah, hope again, right?
Yeah,
hope again.
Yeah, so it's a nice little message to kind of round off today's podcast with. I mean, I hope there continues to be good news. I mean, of course, next week we're going to be focusing on Trackmania Grand League, playoffs preview, and also some other kind of events. Talking maybe a bit more about time chasers and things like that. And I think also I believe we got to do a preview of Twitch Rivals, but not a review, so to speak. But we can definitely get to that next week when we've not
Twitch
already taken up.
Rivals was.
Yeah, but we've already taken up an hour and a half of everyone's night. I know it's getting late for you guys, so we'll tuck you into bed with a good night on the podcast. But once again, 2 reminders to bring to you guys as we are rounding things off today. First of all, podcasts are now from next week, so that is going to be next Tuesday starting at 8 p.m, not 9 p.m. anymore. So an hour earlier to set your alarms for, because I don't want any of you to miss it. You can see our beautiful faces both there, and Erwin, of course, in the background, doing top quality producing as always. And second reminder, of course, esac.gg for, of course, big thanks to them for producing this podcast as always with the main man Erwin, and also for opening up a massive new framework for people to be creating and participating in Trackmania tournaments going forward, and also some new projects to look forward to. So definitely keep your eyes on the social links for ESAC and also for myself and Mr. Turbo beside me, who hopefully will be involved in some things to stream and things on Twitter and the socials in the future. But that's pretty much been it from me. I'll leave the final word to you again.
Yeah, so thanks again for the podcast. I really like that it was a positive episode. I really felt good about the topics we were covering today. And also I'm looking forward to the November, because it will be super stacked and we will have a preview that next week. But also my study will start again. So everything will be a little bit more busy for me. I'm also looking forward to that, but I'm still gonna join you here again in this podcast, because I always looking forward to that Tuesday. It's really good. Thank you. Just want to say that.
Yeah, that's been it from us, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night, whatever you decide to do with it. The rest of your week until we see you again. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and good night.